Good evening, and welcome back with another video here. I'm Dylan Newell.
I'm Luke Janesco.
Alrighty, and we are covering The Black Phone. Yeah, this is one that we've been kind of anticipating for quite a while. I believe it got pushed back. This was supposed to come out, sometime this past fall, I thought?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
I
don't.
think wait, it was like, winter, I thought, maybe like February or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe it was February. I think
Because
it,
I
it
remember
got.
seeing I
Yeah, I
saw the
know that.
trailer during Antlers.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, they've been advertising this movie for quite some time, is the point we're trying to make here. So it's finally out. We got a chance to see it tonight. We're just giving our basic general thoughts as a spoiler free review. But yeah, Luke, so tell us, what do you think of The Black Phone?
Oh, man, well, going into this, I had some real high hopes. I'm a big fan of Joe Hill's work. I've read some of his short stories. I haven't read The Black Phone in particular, but I'll say after watching this film, I'm cracking that one open and gonna dive into it. Overall, I thought this film was fantastic. I had high hopes, and I would say they fully fulfilled those. Great performances. I think the story overall was great. I after we had seen it, and you asked me how I thought, there was a particular scene in there where I was like, I haven't had that feeling in a theater in a very long time. I just think that this film is something we're gonna dive long form into for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% back you on that. I think this was awesome. Like, I had a really great time with this movie. My feelings were kind of mixed on it. I was definitely anticipating it, I guess you would say, but it was never something where it was as many times as I've been burned, I'll be anticipating Halloween Ends, where I'm just like watching these movies leading up to it. I guess I watched a film that we're going to be talking about very soon in preparation for this, but it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, yeah, I knew it was coming out. I thought it looked interesting, but I just, didn't really know what to expect. And then, as we're leading up to it, and, I try to stay away from reviews, especially of movies that we're going to talk about, new
Yep.
ones, until after I see the film. And, but I heard buzz, saw some things on Twitter, just you could hear the general vibe of it was that it was pretty positive. And yeah, I was blown away. I honestly thought this was a really great time at the movie theater. As far as a horror suspense thriller goes, this was excellent. This reminded me of some recent films like Clove Hitch Killer. It had a lot of vibes with that.
Yes.
Um, so that's like the most recent thing I could equate it to. But the thing that I really appreciate, if you know anything about me, is I love 70s films, especially 70s horror. And just the fact that this film was set in the 70s for me
Yeah.
was huge. Like, the tone was perfect, a little exaggerated in a couple of spots. There's one scene in particular that I would say they went a little too far, I think, with kind of the exaggeration of the era, but I thought that it was forgivable for what we got here. Like, it's a very minor complaint for an otherwise great movie.
And that's where it's like, I think you need that sometimes in a sense, especially to please a general audience because that's in their mind what they're expecting. Something like Stranger Things, where it's so hyper 80s, that's where it's like, man, maybe you're overdoing it a little bit. Where I think the Black Phone found its ground and stayed there for the most part. I know we're not really diving into spoilers, but hey, I'm gonna spoil the opening because if you watch this film, it's 2 minutes in. So, um, the opening is their kids are playing baseball. I mean, that's like America's pastime. It's straight red, white, and blue. You know what I mean? Where it's like it
Hmm.
feels like your small town. Nothing bad ever happens there. They capture it so well, and we're introduced to our main character, who's a pitcher, and then um, another kid from the opposing team, hits the home run or whatever it is, and then we focus on him, and it's like post game, he's riding his bike through the little town. Everyone knows him. He just won the game. Everyone's saying hi to him. And it's upbeat music, all this stuff, and just the visuals of this black van's right there, and then we just see a figure get out, and then we cut, and I'm like, oh, this sets the tone perfect. And then also that the opening credits, like we go from that all American feel to this dark, gritty, almost David Fincher-esque Seven feel, and I'm like, great juxtaposition. And I was like, I'm already on board with this film just 3 minutes in.
I mean, like you say Seven, I say Zodiac on that.
Yeah.
They're very heavily in there. But I agree. Yeah, they open and it just sets you in that tone. It's in that place. It's that thing that you always want to emulate. We talk about that with our love for a movie called Silver Bullet. If you haven't checked out our first episode of Splattercast, go ahead and check it
We
out at the
mentioned
bottom
it
there because
several times.
we talk about it a lot. And the tone is something that we bring up. Movies like this, and it's Joe Hill's writing. I know that this was adapted by Scott Derrickson and a writing partner of his. I didn't catch the name, but it's one of those things where it's like, you can really feel that King DNA in that
Yep.
story right there. Like it's just all those familiar beats, but they're so sewn in there so well that it will just suck you right in. And I think that pushing this from I'd say the only better time you could have released this film would have been around Halloween.
Yeah.
And that's just on just the fun, the angle of it. But like pushing it to June, really I think helps sell that because I don't know. You can say that this has nothing to do with like in a review, this adds no substance. But like for me, um, I will give a movie bonus points in especially in the setting if I go see it and the vibes are all completely right. Like if the weather's nice and summertime. That's why it's like I tend to be a little softer on things like Jurassic World Dominion is getting a lot of hate, but that was just such a fun summer afternoon to just go see that movie and have a good time. But this really sets the vibe straight. Like I really like the way it all just kind of comes together and it really gives you that summery small town feel. And so if you
Yep.
go and see this some one afternoon this year in the theater, I hope that you follow that experience as well because it just I really in a long time I haven't felt this sucked into like a world and a story to where I was just like feeling all these emotions and everything. Like it's really a plus with that. Like that's probably my biggest point I can give it is just the tone and the way they set the story is just perfect.
And that's where, like, there are times where my heart was racing in the theater, to be honest. And I think that has to do a lot with the editing. I love how they cut from, I don't know exactly what effect or what they filmed on, where it looks older, in
16
between some.
millimeter.
Okay, is that what they
Hmm.
did? Okay.
I can
Um,
confirm that.
and I love those like kind of transitions. They do these like real quick cuts to kind of keep you off kilter, and it works so perfectly. Like sometimes people will take that risk and it doesn't pay off. The black phone, it adds so much because you never feel comfortable in the theater watching this. I don't even think once this comes out on Blu-ray and you're sitting at home, I think with that editing style, I think you're always going to feel uncomfortable, and that's what you want in this type of subject matter. Um, they accomplish that because it's just like I you do feel comfortable closer toward the end in a sense. We're not spoiling anything, but you get a pretty good resolution out of it. So it's like, I think they handled the tone here so well. And I know you said you weren't necessarily sold on the film before it had come out. And I'll say, when I first saw this trailer before Antlers, Ethan Hawke's performance alone sold me on it. Just the when he gets out of the van, he's doing the "I spilled the eggs" and all this stuff, where he uses where they say everything's peachy keen or whatever he says. You know what I mean? And it's like the vernacular that he uses, the way he plays that off, and then the black balloons and just the way he's dressed is so unsettling that I was like, I have to see this film. And he keeps that up throughout the entire film. There's I don't there's no bad scene for Ethan Hawke in this. Like I would say his performance is one of the strongest I've seen in a long time.
And I will say, you hardly see his face.
Yeah, and I
So
love
like
that.
that's amazing. Like even in the sequence where he's not wearing this mask that you see in these trailers and in the poster and everything, you see it maybe once without the mask obstructing it in some fashion of way. So it's just like, it's a really ballsy move, but I mean, like, he is having one heck of a year right now between this and Moon Knight.
Yeah,
So it's like Ethan Hawke is, and he's no stranger to working with Scott Derrickson. But if we want to talk about performances for a minute here, Ethan Hawke is definitely like he sells you in the trailer, and I will admit he did sell me in that. I always thought that he'd be a bright spot. I was just hoping the film around it could match that because you mentioned him. It's a no brainer for me. He's going to turn in a fantastic performance and he sells it. It's beautiful, it's interesting, and it's one of those things where I kept expecting him to have a real, no spoilers here, but I wanted him to have like this real big moment where he just gets to kind of have a long form conversation with our character of some sort with Finney. um
yeah,
but you don't really get that, and that I thought that was unique. I thought that was an interesting take because you don't spend a ton of time with him really in the grand scheme of things, but the presence and what he brings and what you do see, it fucking terrifies you. And I
yeah.
thought that was very ballsy and very unique for having such a big name actor. You hardly see his face, and he is just this despicable human. And you when he is there, he's there, but when he's not, you're just anticipating when is he coming in next. And I mean, that's just great acting. Fantastic.
And that's where it's like, I think that adds so much to the character itself by not telling us everything we want to know about him. It keeps him to kind of be this larger than life character. If we sit down and unpack what makes him him, I think that loses something. And I love that they kind of just went that route with it. And like Ethan Hawke's performance, like you said, uh, the majority of the film, his face is covered up. And like when I had first seen photos of that, I was like, the mask seems a little over exaggerated. I wasn't sure how if that could have come off real cheesy if they didn't play it right, but I think they play it to a T. And the expression changes he uses in that mask is
Hmm.
horribly unsettling. Like, um, the when he's sitting in the chair, I know we're not really going to talk about it, but like in the kitchen, you know what I'm talking about, and the expression has changed. And then when he comes out of the shadows at points and the expression has changed, it's just severely unsettling to me. And just the use of his body language because we're not really seeing his face. He's able to tell us so much by saying nothing. Just like with him, those quick editing cuts of him just standing there with a balloon, the way he's standing, the way he's moving his hands, it's just very unsettling. I think he plays the character so great.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm gonna also say I think probably on the same level of performance here that I enjoyed. Madeline McGraw killed it. I thought that she was a fantastic like character, just such a unique way to portray the younger sister, and it just felt so real. And the interplay between her and Finney Mason Thames, they both excellent. They both did a fantastic job. They really carry this movie for when the scenes that Ethan Hawke isn't involved in, because you know for a good majority of this film, it's spent developing these characters and their home life, and you get to see a lot and learn a lot about them before anything even really goes down as far as involving this phone and Ethan Hawke and all that. So it's like you really get a well-rounded film here, and I think that this is totally worth going out to the theater and seeing. It's definitely one of the best films I've seen this year. I think I can safely say that. I will probably attempt if I can to see it again. If not, I'm definitely going to be picking this up on Blu-ray, and we will definitely be getting this as a recommendation from one of us here, probably within the next few months.
Absolutely. Going back to the kids' performances, I mean, you take a risk when you're casting kids sometimes where you don't really know how they're going to perform. And we're kind of so happy right now, and nothing against Stranger Things. I love the show. I mean, we've talked about it on here several times. We're kind of real happy, I think, as a culture to kind of sit in this 80s vibing kids monster squad esque tongue in cheek fun stuff where this is a very serious film. And the kids have their funny moments, but they're not overly funny. They're very serious throughout this whole film. And we're talking about the two main kids, but I'm talking also the side characters that we meet, like um was his name Robin, the one
Yes.
boy.
Mhm.
I think he played that role perfect. I really love the whole cast that they used here. The father, that's one thing where sometimes, like, I feel like if this was Stephen King, he tends to make a lot of the adults villainous the all the way through. Like, we would have gotten the father in this kind of to be like Bev's dad in It. I think maybe if this was a King King property. I don't know that, but it just feels sometimes like he goes that route with it. And where this one even kind of has some sort of arc where the dad has his bad elements, but not he's not seen as an overly bad character. He's still there for his kids. I think that was very interesting. That was a very interesting take on this. So um, definitely worth seeing. Performances all around, great cast, great story, great feeling. I know I will be seeing this in the theater at least one more time. And yeah, this is one of the strongest films I've seen in, in a year here where we're, well, we've had what, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre come out, we've had Scream come out, we're getting Halloween, all this stuff. And for me, some of the strongest stuff is The Cursed and now The Black Phone. So it's like we're in a very interesting time right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a an interesting year, but I gotta say that this was for me again to reaffirm one of the best of the year, especially if you're talking horror, if you're talking just that thriller vibe. You want to see something that you can tell there's a lot of care and there's a lot of love as far as just wanting to tell the story and bring it to life. I'd say it's this, and I agree with you. I will be checking out this short story here very soon, just because I want to see if there's any more details, anything more I can pick up, get a little bit deeper into the mind of Joe Hill himself. But I got to say, I'm giving big props as my little closing statement here to Scott Derrickson. I love the MCU. I've been very open about that. And Doctor Strange, I actually think is one of my favorites of the universe. But as far as his other work, I haven't been fully on board with a lot of it. There's things like Deliver Us from Evil I've seen. I have not seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I hear
Yep.
that it's pretty solid. And then Sinister, I have thoughts on as well. So it's like it's one of those things where I do have reservations for him, but I'd say that this film has won me over into the Scott Derrickson camp, and I will definitely be looking forward to whatever he puts out next because this is special. Like that's really what I'm trying to say here is like if you're looking for a great horror film that really sinks you in and brings you and takes you on a ride, this will do it.
Yeah. This is I would love to see him play in this space a little more because I know, like you were just mentioning, his filmography tends to kind of go that real supernatural route with it, and there is supernatural elements to this story. But like you said, this on par with like Zodiac and things, where
Hmm.
it's that feeling. The majority of it is that feeling. So I'd love him to play in this little space for a little longer just to see what he comes up with because this is such a strong film. He's got big shoes to fill for a follow up here, but this one is a high recommend for me.
Absolutely. Same here. So if you are planning on checking out the Black Phone this weekend, please do. If you were on the fence about it, definitely go check it out. If you have no interest in it, please give it a chance because you might be surprised. I definitely, it feels good to be coming out of a movie that, with a little bit of anticipation, actually sold me because I feel like with our horror films, I haven't gotten that a lot recently, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's nice to have that feeling. So yeah,
Especially when it's always like, "Hey, this is getting 100% in Rotten Tomatoes."
yes,
That's when I start kinda getting, okay, what are we in for here?"
yeah, no, I we have a film we'll discuss that really gets in with that, where we kind of felt like we were taking crazy pills for instance. So
Yeah.
anyway, guys, check us out on our social media here, or follow us at Splattercast Pod, so you can keep up with us and find out when our shows are dropping, what topics we're covering. And if you just have any questions or want to keep up on the conversation, please reach out. We're always looking for criticism, always looking to start a conversation and just talk horror movies. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all your other podcast platforms. And yeah, we're talking about getting a few more social media spots open up here pretty soon. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But until then, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, we all go a little mad sometimes.